I'll also tell you another problem. It's the sophistry of both parties is getting out of control. The tax the rich. The rich in this country pay more than virtually any place in the entire world. We already have a hugely progressive income tax structure, just hugely progressive, and so that whole line of thinking is just inaccurate. It doesn't stand up under scrutiny. And again, if you want profit margins, that's where I was getting. You ask the average person what the corporate profit margin is of, let's say, publicly held companies. What do you think they would say? I'll tell you when I speak to people what they say. Henry, you're closest to it. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of know what it is, so it would be cheating, but yeah. I mean, I'm guessing it's somewhere around 15%.
15 to 20%. And the real number, Paul, is 2.8%.
Oh, roughly. Wow. Okay.
People think that public companies make a lot more profits than they do. That's why people think that privately owned companies make a lot more money than they do. That's why Mamdani thinks that he could run a supermarket in New York and simply cut out the profit margin to make the goods cheaper. But actually, the inefficiency in the government trying to run the supermarket would be way more than the profit margin, and the goods would end up being way more expensive.
Think about what it means about New Yorkers are willing to try a system that has never worked, run by a guy who's never had a job, who's never had an economics course, and grew up in basically a socialist or communist household. That certainly that's going to work out really well.
Yeah, people.
But if it doesn't work for him, he's going to globalize the intifada.
Chicago and San Francisco and Seattle. Why shouldn't it work well for New York?
So, Elliot, don't you think, though, that part of what's happening here, I mean, what I see that's taking place is that there's a false premise that the right and the left are building their assumptions on. I mean, I start with this idea of, if you listen to Donald Trump, there's a constant theme about how our industry and business and jobs have been hollowed out, which just isn't true. Now, he blames the global elite, but if you look at all the numbers, it's just not correct. Or go to the other side. Bernie Sanders saying almost the exact same thing, but when he gets to the end, he and AOC will say, but it's caused because of the billionaires, the oligarchy, right? They're both trying, they start with who they want to blame, and then they're building their case backwards politically. And they know that those themes work with the public, but the reality of both of them is, if you start with the real data, there's nothing like the United States. All these things that they're giving you are based upon innuendo, false facts, assumptions, gut feeling. They're not based upon real data that would tell you something completely different if you were trying to determine what is the right tax policy or what is the right approach to tariffs. You made mention of the tax issue a moment ago. One of the charts we've used on this that we took from The Economist is, it is true that if you look at the difference between people at the lowest income bracket and the highest income bracket, there's about a 16 times differential. And it was much lower during the 1950s, 1960s, when income taxes for the highest group was 90%. And so what that really meant was there were no real taxes being paid by people at the top end. Now, if you take the taxes off of the people at the top and then the amount given to people at the bottom, there's about a 4 times difference, meaning you're now getting tax revenue to give to those people at the bottom. Both sides end up coming up. A rising tide here really is lifting all boats.
Well, the other thing is that the specious argument on the part of Sanders and AOC, it's not always the same people who are at the bottom. Some people are there, but most people start at the bottom and they move up and they reach at least the second quintile, maybe the first, and they do so because they get jobs, they become more productive, they're successful, they work hard, and that moves them up the income spectrum. In a lot of places, especially socialist societies, you don't move up the income spectrum. You're there. It's no different than it was in the 1400s when you were a serf. And so the only places it's really different are in capitalist societies, free market societies, because you have the ability to use your talents to become more productive and provide people what they want. And those people don't have a gun to their head when they go and they buy an iPhone. Nobody has a gun to their head. They're saying, I want this. When they buy a certain car, nobody has a gun to their head. They say, I want this. They're making choices that make them happier and make them better.